What's going on, everyone? Happy Wednesday. Let's get over that hump of the week. And welcome to a live at 5 with the Ryan Ripken Show. Look, I was a little bit out of commission, so you guys had to deal with Zach yesterday for better or for worse. Sometimes it's the Zach Bollinger Show. But today it's the Ryan Ripken Show. And not going to be a long show today, short and sweet, talking about a few topics that I don't know, probably need to hear or at least dive into a little bit more. Press conference, Zach.
Yeah.
The Orioles reacquired somebody and then kind of setting the stage for what this MLB offseason is going to look like. This is just like straight ball talk today. I don't think we're going much football because, it's a Wednesday. Are we going to talk that Kyler Murray's going to be out for a while? We could, but I don't think that's – unless you want me to hear my take that the Cardinals are going to win some games, Zach, because I'm not bought in. But that's it. I lied. Yeah. You know what? Ball talk.
There was our football talk. There it is. Boom.
Yeah, that's it.
There you go. Ball talk with the Ryan Ripken Show.
Yeah. Channel, hit that like and subscribe button. We do this live. We're trying to do it Monday through Friday. Time.
We're
back?
We're back. We're back. It cut out for a second, but we're back.
All right, we're back. So for our channel members, I see you. Laura, Kieran, appreciate you guys. Thank you guys. Darren, see you. Let's dive into this, Zach. What do we first want to start with?
I guess before we maybe get into the players and reacquisitions and stuff, we'll start with the head honcho, the guy that was brought in to lead the Baltimore Orioles in the 2026 season and hopefully beyond. Craig Albernaz had his first day in Baltimore technically yesterday. You can go online and see all the videos of he and his family walking around the yard, cool behind the scenes stuff. But it was his introductory press conference day. And Ryan, something I wanted to talk to you about actually before we maybe even get into the clip, if we want to get into that. Big storyline for me wasn't necessarily even what was said. I mean, there was a lot of talk that it's off-season talk. Hey, we're going to be a fun brand of, play a fun brand of baseball. We're going to go for the best players, all the usual stuff that you hear at the beginning of the offseason for a press conference, especially an introductory one. But something that stood out to me, Stephen Vogt was in the front row of this press conference, traveled all the way to Baltimore to be able to see Craig Albernaz introduced with his family. Maybe I'm wrong, Rip, but that's not something that seems normal to me. A guy to have, one thing that we heard immediately when he was hired was, oh, this is a guy that everyone in baseball loves. Like, this is the guy. And for the sitting manager, active manager of the ball club that he just came from to be like, oh no, I'm going to be there on your first day, because that's how much you've meant to this, team, this organization, to me as not only a coach, but a friend. Those are the relationships that stood out to me. What did you think of that?
Yeah. I mean, I can't recall a lot of current managers that then went to the press conference of one of their former coaches, and not because they don't care. It's just, it's life. You have your other obligations and responsibilities, but that is a telling sign, because you want someone that is going to lead your ball club, which Craig Albernaz is now being tasked to do. You want that person to have a reputation that they can trust in him, that he's a guy that is going to have those best intentions. And again, that's no knock to any other managers throughout baseball. But when Stephen Vogt, who to me, Zach, I think he's one of the best managers in the game. Yeah. What he's done in Cleveland has been spectacular. And I think that Stephen Vogt's going to be a great manager for years to come. His reputation is so highly regarded. And then to see him put really how his his reputation on how he feels about somebody else, that is the telling sign for sure. So that was a special moment, cool moment. And now it's time to go to work. Yeah. Now it's all right. It's a feel good, great. Yeah. Well, now at some point that reputation, it's going to go out the door here. It's going to be, all right, let's win some baseball games. So why don't we play the clip from the press conference then now, Zach, and we can hear what the new skip of the Birds, Craig Albernaz, had to say, and then we're going to just have a little conversation on the other side.
Coaching, think about being a big league manager, at least I didn't, but as you navigate your relationships, navigate certain teams, and you can kind of see that's something that you want to do and a goal you want to obtain. And to do it in such a historic franchise as the Baltimore Orioles, it really is a dream come true. And I just can't wait for the fans to come out, to watch our boys compete, because we're going to play a very exciting brand of baseball. And as Mike alluded to, it's going to be a great bounce back year for this group. And I can't wait. I'm excited. I think the best coaches, the best managers in this game, they adapt to the players around them. They don't have one set way of doing things, and that's the way I see this is, myself and the coaching staff are going to really hone in on our players' strengths. And yes, we're going to help them develop their weaknesses, but we just want to bring out their players' strengths and let it shine. The talent just jumps right out you. I mean, even playing them this year, it was a down year, a lot of injuries, but the talent up and down the roster is impressive. And when you have a group of young players that get to the big leagues and have success, like in 23, and they have a rough 25, it's really tough to curate that adversity for young players to go through. And so for them to have it happen on the biggest stage, again, dealing with the injuries, I wouldn't say poor performance, but, they could perform better in their eyes. So it's great to see that the work they put in this offseason to come out next year and really take on that challenge.
It's a lot of good words there, Zach, and things that jump out to me. He mentioned talent. Mm-hmm. There's one thing that people cannot question with this Baltimore Orioles team is the talent that they possess, especially the position players. Mm-hmm. He said he didn't want to say it was poor performance, but the reality was the team and the overall, hitting side, they did underperform. There was poor performances. That's sugarcoated. It was true, but the bones are there to take that next step. And Craig's responsibility is how do you get the most out of the players moving forward? Zach, I thought it was interesting him saying, we're going to work on our players' weaknesses, but we really want to try to use their strengths, their advantage. And
also mentioning every player's different, and you got to, do kind of what you're saying, use their strengths. And I think that's something we've asked for.
Yeah. The main thing that I want to emphasize with what you just said is that in the game of baseball, everyone else is going to have different ways that they need to develop and different ways it's going to click with them. And just because you have power or could be a power hitter doesn't mean that that's necessarily going to be your strength. It could be, but it's finding out what your strength can be to help the team win. So Jordan Westberg, Gunnar Henderson, Jackson Holliday, Adley Rutschman, Sam Basayo, and the list goes on and on. I feel bad leaving the other guys out, Zach, but the one thing that we had talked about is you got to have a unit that knows how to work in sync. And if you're going to be known as a home run team, then you better hit some dingers. But if you're not going to be that, leave the ballpark like the Yankees and the Mariners, those were two teams that were like that this year, you got to find how your lineup then can continue to make something happen. And I think when he said brand of baseball being like a fun brand of baseball to watch, entertaining, exciting. That's what I'm really interested in with Zach, of what does that brand of baseball look like for Craig Albernaz? I think that's what a lot of fans are going to want to see. They're hoping it's going to be different than what it was in 2025.
Yeah, and actually, this is where verbiage matters to me, because he not only mentioned it a few times in this press conference, but actually in just his selfie video to say hello to the fans in his first ever video as the Oriole manager. A big thing for, we felt like last year, especially early in the season when they were going through those droughts where it was, they were 18 and 34, stuff like that, where it was just getting bad. And it felt like at times there was just this there was this cloud hanging over guys. People weren't running balls out. It just felt like the team wasn't all there. And the word he keeps using, he doesn't keep saying, hey, come watch our guys win. Hey, come watch our guys play. He uses the word compete. And I think that's the brand of baseball we're going to see from him, is you are going to have to get all 27 outs versus the Baltimore Orioles before you feel good about what's going on with your team. They are going to be a team where I think it is finding ways to put guys in the best, most advantageous spots for them. And another thing he didn't mention in this specific clip, but they talked about yesterday, as a reporter asked him the thing that honestly every Oriole fan probably was thinking about: Craig, what are your thoughts on analytics? And I loved his answer. He said, give me all of them. I want every analytic. I want to see all the numbers. I want to see everything. He's like, analytics have been around forever. He said it's gotten deeper, but batting average, all that's analytics. That is technically analytics. Give me all of them. I want to see everything. And then he said what I think is really important. He goes, because analytics are a piece to the full puzzle. They are not the end all be all. And he talked about the human aspect of the game. And I think that's important, that analytics help. Hell, we had Buck Showalter on the show, and he was like, in the 90s, we had an analytics guy. He was like, it was just one guy, and now you have 100 of them. But he's like, we had an analytics department. It was a guy that was handing me, just a few analytics. But analytics have been a part of the game. It's how do you use them to benefit you? It's not living and dying by the numbers. It's having the feel for the game, using them to maybe be like, okay, this guy does well against this hitter. This guy does well against this pitcher, whatever it may be. Okay, in these situations, he's hitting better than this guy. But as I kind of brought up yesterday, if a guy's hitting 400 versus a certain, past few games, he's been 0 for his last 15. Yeah, he might have a decent history against this closing pitcher, but I don't know if he necessarily needs to be brought in the biggest moment when he's 0 for his last 15, because there's that human aspect of, hey, he's down on himself right now. Maybe don't throw him in against their best pitcher in the biggest moment, where if it doesn't go right, now he's even more down on himself. I think it's all a part of the whole picture. So I love that he said, he loves the analytics, but it's just a piece to the puzzle. It's not the end all be all. I think that was very important to hear from him.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing when it comes to talking about analytics, it's not that the analytics are bad.
Yeah.
The problem with analytics is understanding how to use them to your advantage. And then when is it too much that you're analytical? We could go back, this whole situation with IKF and third base and the World Series. The analytics now that are going into all these plays, could it have helped? Could it not have helped? I don't know. Right now, I'm feeling like there's an overloaded amount of information about one play. And for me, that's why that conversation is continuing to spark, because everyone wants to attack it from a different angle. But you know what's happening, Zach, is that the result's over. We're still debating it. Is that helpful or not helpful? At some point, there's only enough. You make your point and you move on. That's how it is when you play the game of baseball on the day-to-day. You have the analytics, you strike out, you give up runs, you analyze what happened, and then you got to move on. And then in the moment, how much is too much? And for the Orioles, that has been one thing that they have done too much of over the last year plus, is that the analytics at times might have gone a little bit too far. And one thing that still trumps everything is the pulse of your own team, the human element on your guys. Dave Roberts, and for anyone that says managers, don't give managers credit, managers matter. And a big reason why the Dodgers won the World Series, besides that they had talent, was that their manager had a pulse on how the players were. The fact that they decided, or Dave decided to start Miguel Rojas.
Yeah.
Is that an analytical move, Zach? Or is that a pulse on the team to say, yep, Miguel, we're gonna change things up? Or knowing what your starting pitchers that are going to come out of the bullpen, what they have, what they can do. All of that goes into play. So for Craig, I'm excited to see it. He's a great young now manager that has a great opportunity in front of him. And we're not really going to know, Zach, until we get to next year and really until midsummer to get more of an idea of how things are going. And we're going to see how this roster is going to develop. Also in the press conference, David Rubenstein was asked about limitations. Are you going to be spending money? Said there's no limitations. And I was on 105.7 talking about that. I got asked about that question. And my thing with the Orioles, what you've learned, is I think they're going to be aggressive, Zach, but aggressive just means you can't get burned the same way again. Yeah. So I look for this Orioles team to be deep with pitching help. I expect them to add a bat, but more importantly, I expect them to play the game better and more fundamental than they did in 2025. And if they do that, Zach, then Craig Albernaz, that'll be a check in his box of things that he has accomplished, because you got to play the game a certain way if you're going to have success here. So if you are new to the channel, though, hit that like and subscribe button. We're live 5 here.
Live 5.
During the week, and our channel members, I appreciate you guys. And if you want to be a part of the channel members, click that join button, be a Rips good kid, Rips better kid. It really just helps us create more content that can help you all. And we're planning to go to the winter meetings down in Orlando in a month where things get hot. We are working on getting more extensive content for you. And it is still football season. So tomorrow we'll be talking football. And let's just say there's a guest that we're going to have joining the show that Ravens fans are curious about who this player is and what he can be for the Baltimore Ravens. So new to that channel, hit that like and subscribe button, and we'll see you tomorrow at 5 p.m. for the big show in studio. Zach, what conversation we want to jump to next?
I guess let's talk about, we talk about it's going to matter about the players and the offseason and bringing guys in, or I guess maybe bringing guys back. Yesterday, right after the press conference, a few hours later, sitting there, phone buzzes. It's like, oh, Orioles making a trade. It's making a trade, and you're like, okay, with the Cubs, I'm expecting it to be a minor league deal, something, okay, claimed off waivers for cash. And it was for cash, but it was for an old friend, Andrew Kittredge, who was traded over the trade deadline, and he's coming back for cash, pretty much as John Heyman put it. The Orioles bought back Craig or Andrew Kittredge. So I love this move. I was very upset when Kittredge was traded. I understood why you had to get value for him, but I felt like with that team option that now the Orioles will take advantage of now that he's back, I felt like he was a guy that was kind of someone that you could rely on. And he had a very, very nice second half with the Cubs, was actually closing out a winner go home game. So this is a guy who got even more experience over the back half of the year in Chicago, pitched in high leverage situations, was in a playoff push. And now you look at him, he's back here. I think this is a great addition to that 7th, 8th inning role, because we talked about it. This team needs help pretty much in the bullpen everywhere. With Felix out, with obviously you got rid of, even though they're on expiring deals, Gregory Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez. You got rid of Kittredge at the time. Brian Baker obviously gone as well. There were a lot of holes that you need to fill, and I thought this was a perfect first step to get back. Get a very young, promising prospect in De La Cruz at the deadline, who I believe is now the 24th prospect for the Orioles at just 18 years old, hasn't even reached single A yet. He's still in the Dominican leagues, but this was a great move by Elias. I thought this worked out perfectly. What were your kind of thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was a nice little rental. Hey, enjoy. Hey, use them when you need them for the postseason. Hey, and you know what? We'll take them right
We'll
back.
take them back.
Yeah, I really like the move because I really like Kittredge. I think his stuff plays well. Biggest thing is he's got to be healthy. And the other part of when you're constructing a bullpen, Zach, and now right now you have three guys that have big league contracts that at least that have been announced, not counting what could be with guys like Cano and Keegan Aiken and how you're going to figure out the rest of your bullpen and who fits. But Dietrich Enns, Rico Garcia, and now Kittredge. Of those three guys, there's only one that's really been in the high leverage situations consistently or that you expect, and that's going to be Kittredge to start. So you can put that in your pocket of going, this guy we know could pitch in the 6th, 7th, but we're okay with bringing him in the 9th. You need to establish guys that are going to be able to be in your high leverage situations. So I love the move. I think it's a low risk move too, Zach. You bring him back. It's not a lot of money in general. Like when you think about a reliever with upside, biggest thing is be healthy, stay healthy, and now you can build off of some other pieces. And Dietrich Enns, I love his story, Zach. Told you I played against him in AAA in 2021. It's a guy that continues to grind, a guy that continues to try to figure out how to be in the big leagues. And those guys I love because they are ultimately still trying to get better. They feel like they have that chip on their shoulder and they don't take it for granted. But what I love on the baseball side is that Enns can go and be that long relief option for you, So, and he can shorten up and come in situations. So I like that, but no offense to the other guys, Kittredge is the one that you feel the best of right at this particular moment. And excited to see him. Excited to see him back. Just hope that, knock on wood, healthy offseason, healthy spring training, so he can get off on the right foot. That was a really tough blow to not have him ready to start the year as well.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing. If the Orioles were in a better situation, one of the bigger storylines from last year in what was that, late May, early June, would have been adding Andrew Kittredge to the bullpen because he came in, he was fantastic for the Orioles. So I do think this was a great move. Can't be done with the bullpen, but I think you get a guy obviously knows the players. He's going to fit in seamlessly in the clubhouse again. He gets in there and he can be a guy, with Enns that you can feel good about and feel like in a situation he's going to get you out of it. He's a reliable guy. He's not going to sit there and wow you with this stuff, but what he's going to do, he's a classic reliever of he's just going to find ways to get outs when it matters, and that's what you need.
Yep, that is what you need. Now, one thing that is going to continue to develop is what happens in the free agent market and the trade market, but then which can lead into the next topic, Zach, of if you're not going out to get guys and getting bats, well, how do you get some of those guys that you already have in-house back on track? And one of those specifically is kind of still one of the cornerstone pillar guys, man, and that's Adley Rutschman. A lot of people were talking about Adley over the last year plus, and now MLB Network put out a clip earlier about Adley, in the future and with Sam Basayo. So we want to play that clip, and then we're going to react to that because I think it's an important conversation.
Orioles. For years, we thought it would be twin faces when it came to this team. Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar Henderson's still great, but Rutschman, this is concerning right now. Regress certainly offensively, had a 90 OPS plus overall. Meantime, you got a dude in Samuel Basayo who looks like an absolute stud. What are you going to do at catcher for the O's?
Well, I mean, a lot of people, once Basayo kind of signed that extension, a lot of the talk was like, what do they do with Adley? Do they trade him? Stuff like that. But I think there's room, obviously, for both. When you look at Adley's, good years early on in his career, he was still DHing quite a bit, with McCann being his backup, getting those starts behind the plate. But obviously has been struggling a bit from the offensive standpoint, struggling with staying healthy, fighting through some injuries throughout each of those seasons as well. So there's still room. There's room for both. I think you have both of them catching. When one doesn't catch, the other can DH. Basayo can play a little first base. So there's definitely room to have both on the roster and be productive. So I don't think they need to go out and trade Adley. And I don't think that's their intention either. I mean, when you look at this position player group, it's another team that, with some bounce backs from guys like Adley, some good health, and if they could, shore up some of that pitching, this team is right back in the thick of it too in the AL East. After a down year this year. So, and I love the hire with Albernaz. It's kind of personal for me. I've known him for a while. His last year playing was with us in Detroit in spring training, and he is as likable as a guy. Players are going to love him, love playing for him. He's definitely a guy's guy, players kind of manager, but also able to hold you accountable. And he's a good hire for the Orioles. They got a good one. So I'm excited for him, excited for that opportunity.
So, Zach,
yeah,
this conversation and discourse around Adley, I know the worry. I'm not as worried as some on the physical talent of Adley Rutschman. The bigger part for me that the only concern, because I'm buying an Adley comeback and I'm buying an Adley bounce back. What's going to hinder that is if he is not on the field.
Yep.
And the bigger part is if he's mentally in a good spot and he's healthy, I think he's going to bounce back. Because you know what? He started to turn that corner in June. He started to look like the guy that was the all-star player, and then you get hurt, and then you're out again. And that's important. And by no means is Sam Basayo going to come in and be the guy. And I don't think that they even planned for him, Zach. I'm looking at the first base situation, which is still going to have to play out. Like a lot of teams have their situations around their organizations on what they're going to do with their roster. In Baltimore, the question's going to be around Mountcastle and Mayo.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really one, but the other one is already settled, in my opinion. Basayo is going to play first base. Not all the time, but he is going to get reps there as a lefty. He's going to DH, and Adley will still be the primary guy. We found out you need catchers. You need multiple ones. So I am buying that's going to be the case. And quite frankly, Zach, it's the hard truth too. If Adley plays well, the Baltimore Orioles are probably going to be in a good spot if he plays well.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing, and I'll bring this up actually. Let me have it go back. To his numbers, and you can talk about regression and okay, everything's going down. The biggest thing I notice is each year the games have gone down, and that talks about staying healthy. I mean, even 2 years ago now, when people went to call that a down year, yeah, it was for Adley. I think he was battling a little bit of injury, but still 105 OPS plus. I mean, 318 on base percentage. The average goes down, but still, if you're batting 250 as a catcher, you got a 105 OPS plus. You're doing, you're giving the team more than they would hope for from the catcher position. 90 games than last year, 220 average, and the 90 OPS plus. I just think that this is the biggest and most important thing, like you said, is Adley Rutschman being on the field and being healthy on the field. The Baltimore Orioles do not have any catching drama. There is no, in my mind, there's a competition like, Samuel Basayo got this big deal. Clearly, Adley might not make the team, or Adley's going to get moved, or they got to, make a decision on Adley. There is no decision. The decision is where are you going to put him in the lineup? Okay, what days is he DHing? What days is he catching? What days is Basayo catching? What days are Basayo DHing? What days are he playing first? Those are the questions. It's not about can we keep both on the roster? It's how do we let that play out?
Yeah, I mean, you got to let it play out. You got to let it happen and let the chips fall where it may. But the biggest thing is not giving up on talent that has proven that they can be very impactful players. When Adley is healthy, impactful player, not just an impactful player. He's one of the best at his position when he's healthy. Sure, is the defense not what it initially was? Maybe if you're saying arm strength from the first couple years, yeah, you're going to have certain regressions in your game, but you're looking at a guy that even if he was 85% of what he was, or even 80, you're still looking at a top third catcher in baseball if he's not fully back to what he is. And I believe he is going to be on that bounce back. So we'll see what's going to happen. There's a lot of good catching prospects in the organization, but they're ways away from making an impact at the big league level. Right now, it's going to be Adley Rutschman is the guy. And Sam Basayo is going to be here for a long time too, but to be determined on how his usage will turn out. And quite frankly, again, Zach, 2026 could give us a really good indication, because if things don't get better, then it's just like when we say when things don't go well, people lose their jobs or coaches get fired. Well, the same thing happens with players. You don't do well and it starts to build up, then some decisions are going to have to be made. But for the time being, buy the talent, buy the bounce back. And you know what, you guys, appreciate you. New to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. To close this out, Zach.
Yeah.
I wanted to just end this conversation with everything that's been going on with the Game 7 Blue Jays, Dodgers. And we've, when I mentioned earlier, there's so many different ways that people continue to talk about who's right, who's wrong. IKF cost the Blue Jays, bad coaching. It's actually driven me insane, because I'm not saying that anyone's reasoning is wrong, because you can look at it from so many different angles. But I think that's a good reason to say that there isn't a definitive right answer. And so for the people that are saying IKF didn't do enough, well, Max Muncy, the guy that was playing third base for the Dodgers in Game 7, was asked about it. So let's play the clip first, Zach, of Max talking about trying to hold him on. Let's start with that clip, and then we'll play the next one after.
Couple of pitches, I was almost holding him on for a first baseman. I was trying to keep him as close as I could, and then I'd shuffle off towards the end. And as a base runner, it's always you get as much as the third baseman gives you. In that situation, if there's a line drive hit, you're probably going to get doubled off anyways, because you should be going on contact. You're not necessarily seeing it through. And even if you're standing on the bag, you should be going on contact. So, a line drive, you're almost getting doubled off anyways. But that's what they teach you. You get off as far as the third baseman allows. And, we've done enough back picks throughout the course of the year with Will behind the plate that I don't know if that is in the scouting report for the third base coach, when he's getting in the ear of the runner at third base saying, hey, be careful. If he swings and misses at one, they might try to back pick, keep it close. I have no idea if that plays into anything that's going on over there. But in terms of what I saw, he did what you're supposed to do. You get as much as the third baseman gives you, and you obviously can't cheat in that situation. You can't try to get a running start before the pitch is thrown, because there's just so many things that could happen. So from what I saw, I didn't maybe the lead was a little small, but he didn't do anything wrong in terms of what I saw.
So the reason why I'm bringing this up again is the human element of the game and the perception of watching something after the fact and being in the moment. And so Zach, first, comfortability of the runner, of how far you feel you can be off and trust that you can get back. That's number one. Number two, for the players, you understand what's at stake, and what's at stake essentially is the other factors that Max Muncy's referring to. You get too far off and you could get burned. Now, one thing I did want to mention, Zach, he said about going on contact. You know what that would refer to if you're going on contact?
Contact play.
It's a contact play, which I talked to a lot of people about that of, Ryan Ripken, don't know ball. The contact play was not on. Mm-hmm. And the contact play is a calculated risk. And so what Max Muncy's saying, he was describing a contact play being on. Well, he's right. If the contact play is on and you go on contact and it's a line drive, you're out. You are, no doubt. But the contact play also is that you're being aggressive. And if you're not doing that, you have to see the ball down before you make a move. And from what happened in the last game in game 6, you can't take that risk. But there was another element, Zach, that was talked about where Max mentioned back picks. So AJ Przinsky then asked him after that about, well, that's not, you wouldn't do that. Well, Max Muncy actually gave a different answer here. Maybe we'll open up a little bit about what other risks there were at third base in that moment. So let's play that clip.
Every dollar I have, every dollar you have, and every dollar Shohei has coming to him, that Will Smith was not going to backpick with the bases loaded in 1 out in a tie game of the World Series with the game on the line. I'll bet everything that we have that was never going to – if he would have called it, you would have been like, no, man, like we ain't no chance. Like, no way we're doing that right here. There is no way. So I know that you're saying that, but there is no way that was happening.
Yeah, you say that, but we actually talked about it. Because me and Will talk all the time, and we don't have a set sign. We just make eye contact. But that was one of those situations where we had started looking at each other, and it was like, hey, if he back picks, just stay away from the bag so that way the runner can't get in the throw. It's more of a, if he's far enough off, I can catch the throw and dive and tag him. That way, the throw is safe. So we had actually been, talking about it a little bit, because when we made the pitching change before, Will looked at me and said, hey, be ready if there's a swing and miss.
Okay. All right. I still don't believe it. I still have to see it to believe it. But I'll take your word for that one.
It probably wouldn't have happened, but
yeah.
It was something.
I mean, I've talked about, listen, Max, I've talked about a lot of things in my life, and a lot of them haven't come true. So, I mean, trust me, I get it.
So you're right. It probably wouldn't have, is what Max is saying. But it doesn't mean that it wasn't thought about. Yeah. Because you're watching it, Zach, and Muncy just explained it's an eye contact thing. And when your catcher mentions like, hey, look at me when in between pitches and be ready. And the Dodgers, and I've seen it, Muncy, Will Smith, they would do that. They really would. And again, are the outcomes each time you're on third base, the percentage that someone actually throws down? Yeah, analytics, Zach would say, yeah, probably he's not going to throw down a lot of times, but it doesn't mean that it would not happen. And that's another factor you have to bring in on the base paths, because guess what? If IKF gets picked off on third base, what conversation are we having?
We can sit here and talk about, okay, could IKF have done something differently? All this. The conversation that we would be having right now, if as the World Series winning run on third base, if he got picked off with less than 2 outs, back picked of all things, it would have been unreal. It would have been, the IKF slander would have been through the roof. We think it's bad now and something that he really didn't do wrong. He gets a too big of a lead. He gets back picked in there. That's something the fans of Toronto never forget. So I'd like, we can sit here and we can, armchair quarterback it. Everyone can do the whole hindsight 2020. Oh, he should have gotten a bigger lead. The physical closest person to him, Max Muncy, was like, I didn't see anything wrong with what he was doing. Because I'll tell you this, same thing. If he would have gotten too big of a lead, like some of these people wanted him like another 5-6 feet down the line, there probably was a back pick coming, because Max Muncy said, he's like, yeah, it wasn't going to be, a traditional, hey, let's throw it right down the line, try to snap tag him. It would have been a safer, hey, put it on me and I'll dive to try to get him type play. But still, the last thing you can do, if you get caught in, the situation he did, hard ground ball to the second baseman, he makes the play and gets you out. That's one thing. You cannot beat yourself. I think people forget the play that Miguel Rojas made. It was still an impressive pick and throw, even off balance. A lot of things went into getting him out. I mean, that IKF couldn't control. You very much can control if you get picked off because you took too big of a lead, got a little too comfortable. So I'm glad that Max kind of came out and was like, hey, it's not what happened.
And again, it's not that anyone is wrong, Zach, right? Like, I'm not going to say that your opinion's wrong. This is what needs to happen or shouldn't happen. But it just goes to show you that there's so much more that goes into this conversation. And at the end of the day, the Dodgers made the plays to keep the game alive. the Jays were not good at scoring runs and runners in scoring position. That was something they were so good at throughout the entire season and postseason, and they weren't in the final moment. And Miguel Rojas is a hero. Yamamoto off of no days rest. You know, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But this obsession over everything with what IKF could or couldn't have done, this is where it's just overkill. So I'm glad to hear some players that are saying it right there in the moment. No one, to me, we can look at the angle, Zach. We can examine. We can talk that Dalton Varsho's only pulled a ball once, you know, or sorry, he's only lined out once to the left side of the field all year. Sure. But when you're in the moment, it's different. When you're in the moment and you see guys that are on the field talking about it, that to me is the greatest perspective, because it's always easier to talk about it after the fact. But if you are new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. That kind of covers almost all the topics, Zach. If people are interested in,
do you have it also playing? It just started like echoing.
Oh yeah, I do. Do I? Yeah, I had it playing. Yeah, sorry.
No, the past, like, all of a sudden, the past 15 seconds, I was wondering if it was me or if it was playing. But
yeah, there's a lot of discourse. But where? Oh yeah, right here. So Zach, just want to remind people. Oh gosh, hold on. Well, that's a great shot of you.
I was like, what are we reminding people of?
That's Zach Bollinger. No, at the bottom right there, you can click the join button to be a part of the channel. See it right there? And Zach's face. He can't believe it. Yeah, I was trying to do something. I was trying to do something good there. I messed up. Yeah. Yeah. But hey, you look good.
You look fantastic. Shout out to Iron Rooster.
You look great. Iron Rooster looks great. Appreciate Kyle and the Iron Rooster. Got to have him on to cook some food here, cooking with Kyle. I did see Joe earlier say about where's the Rip After Darks. Yeah, we'll get those puppies fired up. I have to. I apologize. I was traveling. I was down at Coastal Carolina. I'll talk about that more tomorrow. And I'll be on Saturday over at Merit Club, Zach, with Merit Sports Performance Open House, talking with young athletes, parents about kind of the ins and outs and the, you know, maybe debunk some myths too when it comes to training at a young age and what the focus really should be about, and things that I learned through my successes and, more importantly, my failures. I failed a lot. It's a lot of things I wish I knew back then. So that'll be great. That'll be great. That's it though. Tomorrow though, live 5 to 7. It'll be our big show. We'll be talking football as well as baseball, and all of the roster moves that could or couldn't be happening, the shuffling that's going on, and maybe you'll have a chance to meet somebody that you're still trying to figure out who they essentially are and what they can mean to the Baltimore Ravens moving forward. So, new channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Zach, can you hear the music?
Oh, yeah.
Why can't I hear it?
Bam, 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 bam.
As always, here on Ryan Control, please take care, guys. Have a day, have a night. Come back and join us tomorrow for a brand new edition. Be good, be safe. Talk to you soon.